That's not a very accurate survey tool. But based on what I see on the GIS mapping, he will take in all of the 25-foot setback and possibly right on the property line. And so what staff would recommend, and it's somewhat redundant in nature, but if the board finds pleasure in approving the variance, that we just make it clear that he cannot proceed beyond the property line or protrude into the right-of-way of the city. And he and I have spoken about that. I think his measurements are probably a little more precise than what I'm able to do on the mapping tool. And so if you have any specific questions about that, I'd encourage you to, refer those to Mr. McGowan. And so with that, staff does support the carport variance request with that condition. Be glad to answer any questions.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Gillen? Okay, Mr. McGowan, if you would please come up to the podium and just introduce yourself, and then we can ask you some questions here in the.
Hey, I'm Robert McGowan, and that's where I live, and just like we're talking about, I want to put a carport in if I can.
So you heard Mr. Gillen's comments about the condition
Correct.
that it would not go into the easement.
Oh, absolutely not. Steve, that red line is where we're talking about extending to, isn't it?
Okay, yes, sir. That's
Yeah, that-
your actual property line. And just wanted to make sure you understood that the curb line does not necessarily reflect the property line. The curb line will encompass the right-of-way. So your property line falls short of the curb line. So as long as you don't go beyond the property line, we're
The
fine
red
with it.
line.
Yes, sir. The
Yeah,
red
red
line.
line. Right, that's what I was trying to.
Isn't that
in-
20 feet from the center of the road?
So I don't have a survey to look at that, to know exactly how far from
No,
the
I
heel
mean,
of your house.
is that the
It should be
requirement?
when you measure the center of the road, you have to allow for a 50-foot right-of-way, so it'll be 25 feet on either side of
Oh.
the center of the road. So we can possibly get someone from a city street crew to come out and help you with that, as far as determining exactly where the right-of-way stops and ends,
Okay.
where your property line stops and the right-of-way begins. If not, a surveyor would be able to do that for you, and then that way you would know exactly where that carport has to stop. And if you don't mind, I'll continue. The entire purpose behind a variance request is because you're protruding into the setback. And we certainly can allow through the variance you to use that setback, but we don't want to allow that to cross into the right-of-way, because if there's any project in the future and we had to come through there, then that carport would be in jeopardy of having to be removed.
Okay.
Yeah, or in some way altered.
Yeah.
Right, so. All right, well, any questions for Mr. McGowan from the board? Yeah, we appreciated the drawings and the diagrams and the explanation. So please have a seat, and if there's anyone from the community, I'll open up the public hearing now. Anybody here to speak for or against or to the request? All right, well, I'll go ahead and close that public hearing then. Do I hear a motion from the board?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve case number B 2024-023.
Very good. Do I hear a second? Thank you, JJ. And it's just understood within that motion that all that we have discussed before about there's not any room for any form of overstepping that boundary into the easement. Okay, any discussion? And just bear in mind that we do have a quorum, but any decisions that are made have to, if it's not a unanimous vote, then it's denied, because it's not about the majority today, it's about the quorum. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion to approve this request, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. All right.
So it's approved. Thank you, sir. Next case is V 2024-024. This is applicant Court Cole, representing Pendleton Enterprises, and I see that Mr. Pendleton is here as well, requesting a variance from section 15412-37, variance of sign regulations for property located at 270 West College. We have a rendering there provided by Mr. Cole in your staff report. The variance is to allow an additional sign on the property at the southeast corner. The sign will protrude into the right-of-way, extending 40 inches from the building. The height at the bottom of the sign will be 14 feet. And per Mr. Court Cole, he has, at our request, visited with Waste Connections to make sure that that sign will allow for adequate passage of the garbage vehicles to access that dumpster in the alleyway, and they have indicated that that is adequate clearance. So staff's comfortable with the sign variance and would be glad to answer any questions.
I read in the packet that there's already an allowance for, what was it, up to
12 inches.
So, I think it's more than 12.
Between 12 inches and 4 feet beyond the exterior surface
There we
of the
go, 4
building.
feet. That's what I was.
But not protruding into the right-of-way.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And this one protrudes into the.
And this
right-of-way.
protrudes into the right-of-way, how many feet?
That- The sign is 42 inches round, but it'll set back, so probably I would say, I'm gonna get as far over as I can. I would probably say 35 inches.
Okay. Thank you very much. So the actual request for this variance has to do with how much the sign protrudes into the easement.
Well, and actually just
Or
an
into the right.
allowance of the protrusion into the easement.
That's right. There's
Yes,
an
sir.
allowance already, and this is going beyond that
Or
allowance.
right-of-way.
Yeah, but not by much, that's the thing.
Well, and I think if we get it up high enough, like he said, I talked to the waste management people. He says as long as it's over 13 foot, so I think it's like 13, 11, so it'll be 14 foot tall. It did come off the side of the building lower and they hit it the first, how they didn't see it, I don't know, but anyways.
So please, before we proceed, just because we're on Facebook Live or whatever, if you would introduce
Oh,
yourself.
So I'm Court Cole, owner at Signs Express. Just trying to get approval for a sign for Brady and Lisa Pendleton.
Okay. And this is Mr. Pendleton's building?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. So it's really your sign?
It'd be my sign, I'm the
Yeah.
proud owner of that sign.
There you go. Okay. But you're the sign
Company.
maker or company. So that's important because I do have questions, and that is there any way to redesign the sign to where instead of going straight up and having a protrusion and even more into the right of way, is there a way to angle that post to where it goes to the left, and that way the actual protrusion doesn't exceed the actual right-of-way allowance?
Yeah, we've got the sign manufactured, like I said, when we put it up the first time, we just hung it off the wall.
Yeah,
And when I submitted the permit, I got a deal saying the permit's approved and a link to pay, so that's why I thought it was good to go. And then we discussed it, there was miscommunication somewhere, I don't know. Usually when I get a link to pay for the permit, that means it's approved. I would think, otherwise it wouldn't issue one. But we can manufacture the mounting bracket
that's
to
what,
go this way a little bit. I don't wanna do it too much so you can still see it from we could probably do it maybe, I would say maybe have it angle up probably 8 to 10 inches, maybe 12 inches this way. We can do it anyway, it's just the fact that you wanna still be able to see it.
right. Because to me, the angling would make it to where this isn't a necessary request.
Okay, yeah, we can manufacture anything. I'll have to do another rendering of it for our guys to get up there and see. I'd like to see how it's gonna overhang. The good thing is, it's on the end of that wall, so you don't have anything really blocking the view either way, it's just gonna
Right.
be back up that way. But we can manufacture whatever. And what's the, how far out can it protrude out?
Mr. Chairman, if I can clarify that.
And it's in the packet too.
It's in the packet, and it's highlighted, I believe, on the second page of the report. The allowance is from the face of a building.
Mhm.
So
So
anywhere
that's the
from
side of the
12
building.
inches to 4 feet, I believe,
Mhm.
from the face of a building. But regardless of the allowance, what it says is that it cannot protrude into a right-of-way of another property. And so what we're asking for, we're not really too concerned about the distance from the building. It's because there's a prohibition for it to actually protrude into the right-of-way. And so we're saying that at that height, we don't see it
It's
being
not
an
going into
impediment of any sort. If you look in the picture, you see that there are overhead lines there.
Yes.
Just a little bit above this, and he's already spoken with the company that had an issue with it before. And so we think at this height, it's going to be an acceptable location for the sign.
Okay.
And what we're asking for is a variance to allow it to protrude into the right-of-way.
Period.
Yes, sir.
So so the property, that alley always will be there. There's not a chance that there could be a building on that property that would be,
Not unless the city
There would have to be another
decided for some reason to try to abandon that alley, and then, it's also a service access for
Yeah.
multiple buildings, so.
that's what I thought.
And I'm sure we have some utilities running through there as well. So if we abandoned it, they couldn't build on top of utilities regardless. So,
Right, okay. So that's the issue, is right-of-way, and right-of-way is not impeded at all.
I mean, basically talking about airspace at this point.
Okay.
And,
I see
we
that.
feel that it's safely located as drawn in the rendering.
Okay. There could still be a bracket that lessens the amount that goes into that non-impeded right-of-way.
Correct.
And so, Mr. Pendleton, I would just
No.
encourage that.
If I approach real quick.
Yeah,
The only
please.
issue I'd say with that, guys.
Well, wait,
is-
let me have you introduce yourself and then.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brady Pendleton, property owner here at 270 West College.
Yeah.
The only issue you're going to have with that, at least from my perspective, is the intent is, we've got this alley here that's an underutilized asset of the city, I believe. And we've discussed with the city at lengths for quite some time, really trying to develop that alleyway, whether it's whether from a lighting standpoint. We've talked to city manager King numerous times about trying to get with the city, and I think these are things down the road we can talk about more. Trying to light the alley appropriately, trying to really encourage the alley to be utilized for community-type events. The problem really is there's two restaurants, or mainly one that uses it for trash, and that's really creating the problem here at this side. So if we were to recess it back anymore, though, how visible does it become off College Street, which really is our main intentions of this sign, is going to be the question, because then it's going to be blocked by a good portion of the building. And so that's the only problem I see if you want to fabricate a bracket where it's going to be recessed more back towards the property boundary, then it's going to kind of defeat the whole intent of the sign where we're trying to eliminate it from the front side of the building for College Street. Yes, you still have the back side, and on the back street there was, accessible and viewable, but of course, most of our front traffic's coming from the College side, so.
Okay. Any questions? Any other questions for Brady? Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Let me go ahead and open up the public hearing for this case, number V 2024-024. Are there any, there was a long list of people on the packet, but I don't see anyone from the community here speaking for or against it, so I'll go ahead and.
Can I say one more thing? So
Okay.
that rendering is just, once we get it up there, it'll be a lot higher than the top of that roof line. That was just something that my girls did at the sign shop.
Okay.
So it'll be a little bit higher than it is right now, just so you can get the whole clearing of that little exterior wall. Once we get up there and take a true measurement, it'll be probably a little bit higher than that as well. So, like Brady said, just, we want maximum visibility from the road.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Colton. I'd like to now, we've already closed the public hearing, so do I hear a motion regarding V 2024-024?
Chair, I make a motion to approve case number V 2024-024.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. All right, any discussion? I think my not concerns, that's too strong of a word, but I think my questions have been suitably, satisfactorily answered, so. And especially in light of the city's support, I think I'm ready to vote. All right, I'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, so it's approved.
Thank you, thank you.
You bet. All right, well, there's no other business on the agenda, and so I'd like to say beforehand, thank you, Mr. Killen. Thank you very much again. What's her first?
Jan Straight.
Jan, and I want to just say publicly and officially, happy holidays to everyone on the board. Thank you all for serving this year, and we'll see you next year. I adjourn the meeting.